Hello, my name is S.E. McDoji. You can call me Spike. I'm pretty regular in most respects, and like every other human, I'm doing what I can to live a good life, even in these strange and unknowable times. I live in a tiny house in the far upper left corner of the United States, just 50 miles south of Canada, and a hop, skip, and a jump from the ocean. My little town is filled with independent local businesses run by independent local people. I take great pleasure in living in a town small enough to know people and big enough to not necessarily be known. The story I'm about to tell you might be hard for you to believe, especially now, what with the very air we breathe laden with falsehoods of every kind. But I swear to you, every word I say is true, for the most part. The story begins about 4 years ago when I decided to quit my high-powered job at the food co-op and simplify my life. For a time, my life was quite lovely. I scraped by doing odd jobs around town and every day felt the deep satisfaction of a person not funding terror and hate all over the world. I figured that I would live below the poverty line for a stretch, about 4 years, just long enough to avoid paying taxes to El Presidente. I know enough about how money is used to understand that no matter how much or how little of my money he had, no good could come of it. I think of money the same way I think of guns. In the wrong hands, it's a deadly situation. The pace of my life slowed, and I began taking pleasure in the little things, like riding my bicycle around town and noticing all the flowers that grew up and threw concrete in the road. One of my odd jobs was as a weed puller, and I was quite good at it, being so low to the ground and all. But I never could bring myself to pull at the plants that had managed to grow through the concrete. It felt wrong somehow. Life went on like this for a spell. I was quite happy living small life in my tiny house in my small town. These are what I now refer to as the salad years. I had nothing to worry about, and no one had to worry about me. Then, the bottom fell out. In the early days of 2020, I heard tell of a virus in the East that was laying waste to everything it touched. By the time March rolled around, I saw the virus called Corona spread globally, and the first case in the U.S. landed just 90 miles south of my beloved little town. I would like to say that I can take no blame for what happened next, but as with most things that befall me, I have to take at least half of the responsibility. Like so many choices we make today, decisions often come down on one of two sides, love or money. The only thing that brings me comfort is knowing that the choice I made was motivated by love. While El Presidente was busy instructing folks to inject themselves with bleach and modeling how not to wear masks, I was, for my part, hugging a person who had been sick with the Rona. Several days later, I felt a burdensome pain weigh heavy on my chest, and the next morning woke up feeling more horrible than I had ever felt before. I had fallen so severely ill that I could not move, much less get down from my mischievously tall loft bed. I spent most of my time sleeping, as I was too tired to be awake for more than 8 or 9 hours in a day. The Rona had the horrible side effect of causing random outbursts of ugly crying throughout the days and nights. Most days, I felt a deep and profound sadness for no reason at all, and about 10 days into my illness, I realized my Star Wars pillow smelled like tears, and salt had crystallized on poor Chewbacca's fur. Initially, I believed at most this illness would occupy my tiny house with me for 2 weeks. I wish I had been right about that. As dumb luck and genetic construct would have it, I turned out to be one of those long-haul carriers who would get sick, then get better. Get sick, then get better. Get sick, then get better. The days turned into weeks, and before I knew it, into months. Time changed, and all of the familiar signposts of my life, which had been such a comfort for me for so long, moved in and out of my consciousness, making it challenging to feel like the old Spike I had grown into before the Rona. Though I had been attempting to steer clear of the news of the day and focus on my wellness, a small but potently malicious act slipped through my protective barricade and shook me to my core. This act, carried out by El Presidente himself, inspired me into action. How strange that the very man I had been cursing for these past years would inspire me to create the answer to all my prayers and the solution to all my problems. Amidst the brave Black Lives Matter uprising sweeping the country, El Presidente had federal agents clear peaceful protesters from the plaza in front of St. John's Church using tear gas and rubber bullets so that he could have a photo op in front of the church while holding a Bible. Then, a revelation, miraculous in nature, struck. If a man so bereft of humanity can create an entire system of operations centered on greed, corruption, and fear, then surely I could create one based on generosity and joy. This spark in the darkness lit the flame that burned the remnants of the Rona from my system and inspired me to get to work. I would create a religion for one. So I worked on creating a belief system which would ritualize the things I already loved, like balls, cake, and Star Wars. I would formalize a structure within which I could live a life filled with generosity and joy. This religion would, as all religions do, require a text, which I entitled Gaudium Vitae, or Joy of Life. I made sure to include inspiring quotes and created 7 significant but simple tenets on which the bulk of the religion would rest. The first tenet emphasized the obligation of the religion's only disciple, Spike, to not proselytize or collect funds to support it, and never use the religion as a justification for violent or unkind behavior. The second tenet emphasized the role of creativity in all areas of life, even when it's challenging. The third tenet outlines the need to embody, embrace, and celebrate individuality and personal freedom. The fourth tenet laid out the importance of entertaining Spike through objects, experiences, and the people she loves. The fifth tenet emphasized the importance of cake in this particular spiritual practice. The sixth tenet is short but pivotal in that it covers one of the 2 most volatile things in the world: money. The final tenet is based on Spike's love for Star Wars and outlines many of the quotes and principles that came from the Star Wars galaxy. After I finished writing my religious text, I made myself an Ode to Joy costume, and I walked all over the streets of my little town with my toy piano. I would stop in different places and play Ode to Joy for people. I also put a joy jar on my piano so that people could come up and take stickers or balls of joy as they wished. As I walked all over my little town playing my toy piano, it began to dawn on me that I was just like those flowers growing up and through the concrete. It gave me comfort to know that I had created something through which I had become an even better version of myself. And I knew that no matter what lay ahead, I would always be able to figure out how to grow up and through it.